It is 137 days into a screenwriter's journey. It is December 5th in Writing World, and we'll see if my world is right today. See if I can make any progress. It has admittedly been a frustrating, I'd say, going on a month of writing, and I've spoken about this several times before, and trust me, it gets no less painful. One thing I haven't talked about in a long time, which you may or may not be interested in, is the whole process of doing this. I mean, technically, obviously, I have to screen record these, and then however much later I put them into a program, and I do the voiceover, and then I whatever and put them on YouTube. It's not rocket science, but so not the technical process, but just, I mean, it's a little bit of discipline to do it every day, to upload them every day. I obviously do them in batches and then release them every day and put the link on. But as I've said before, I don't know that I would ever have the occasion to go back and watch a bunch of these on YouTube. Maybe when I'm rich and famous and on a beach in Hawaii. Why would I possibly do that? I don't know. But I think it's been extremely helpful for me. It probably more helpful for me than for anyone who's watched any of these. And I say that based on most of these have like 6 views, 3 views, 1 view. I should go back and look to see what the most views any of them have. It might be my very first one. And then people realized, not a good idea, Jack. But like I said, going over to see what you wrote, especially when you speed it up, if you did it in real time, it would be torture. But, you know, speeding it up 5 times and then commenting on it, and even maybe even if you weren't commenting on it, just going back to look what you did, I don't know if it would help at all. Maybe it just extends and prolongs the process in an agonistic, that's not a word. But anyways, I think it's been worth my while. It's taken a long time, obviously. And people go, well, why don't you just spend that time writing? Well, I don't think this is taken away from my writing time at all. It's probably taken away from my time watching TV or whatever, wasting my time on Facebook or something. Not that Facebook is a waste of time if you click on these and watch my videos on YouTube, which of course is another big time waster. Can be, not always. I say all this because if I was commenting on the script, I would be commenting on the same thing I've talked about, it seems like forever. And I'm trying to get through these scenes. I'm making a tiny bit of progress. So let's see here. This is the supervisor. And I don't know. I mean, to introduce the supervisor character literally for this one scene, probably not a great idea. Probably not super needed. Maybe she would talk to Katina instead if Katina is her supervisor. But the way this conversation is going right now in this current version of the scene, I just don't. I mean, I know where I'm trying to get, but I certainly haven't gotten there yet. And it just is kind of cringy. There, I said it. Okay, so this is another scene. Oh, yeah, I remember. Yesterday I was up to page whatever. I think that was yesterday. And then I literally started from the beginning again. And I was knocking my head against the wall, wondering why. Why, oh, why did you do that? Jake, your answers. This, again, it's very similar for a lot of these scenes. I know what I want to say. I know kind of what I want to get across, but man, I just am not loving, like Jake's idea. You get to the racetrack first. You won't hear another complaint, blah, blah, blah. It just, I think there was something in the early draft that I really wanted that competition. Um, I don't know why. I think it was more the idea of Holly speeding and kind of strutting her stuff in that way, and then the others kind of in awe of her a little. But that's kind of gone away and taken a new direction. So I don't know that this whole scenario is going to survive. We'll have to see. It's not that I know if it will or not. So now I'm just kind of rewriting this conversation about Lexi and Holly, talking about boyfriends. Who would you tell? What would you tell? So I'm not making a bunch of big changes in here. Maybe is that new? Like the one you're keeping from Jake? It's one secret for a few days. That's how it starts. That I kind of like that because it's telling Lexi that Holly has done the same thing, obviously, and maybe that's why. We don't know that she's had a bunch of boyfriends. Hasn't. I think it's obvious she's never been married. And the fact that Lexi doesn't really know much about her boyfriends, although I don't know that a woman, they met when Holly was mid-20s and Lexi was 6. And so the very soonest she would have probably started talking to her about boys, if at all, would probably be when Lexi is 13, 14, 12, something. But how much she would have told Lexi about her dating life and her relationships, probably not much. So I think it probably makes sense that Lexi doesn't know much and is learning about her. And again, maybe this is too cutesy clever, but this is how it begins. And then Lexi says, how does it end? You're looking at her. Hopefully that's something that can sort of speak volumes without having to go into a big, long spiel. Because again, as I've said, and I'm not the first, I may be the 1 millionth, that dialogue in movies is not the same as dialogue in real life. If this conversation didn't happened in real life, if you were driving in the car, spending a couple hours with someone, you could easily spend that whole time talking about whatever the topic is, politics or boyfriends or, career or, I don't know, music, TV shows, whatever. And you could talk for 15, 20 minutes on one topic. So the job of us screenwriters is obviously to condense that into, a page and a half or 2 pages or, a 3-minute scene. You would not typically write big, long scenes, especially in a movie like this. So you got to take shortcuts and you've got to cut out the bull. And again, you have to make every single line mean something. And so that's kind of what I'm trying to do here. So, and I think I kind of like this. And, the thing that Lexi says about, you ever think about finding a guy, getting married, having kids. So I don't know. The rest of this scene is a little bit questionable. I don't know how far I want to get into this. But again, as I've also said, I guess I don't have to say that. I don't have to qualify it every time. But when you write a scene for the first time and you get into something like this or anything, the tendency is, of course, to write way too much. And then you come back and first you say, is this scene needed? You say, does it work? How can it work better? How can I make it shorter? How can I come in later? How can I leave sooner? And in this case, it's sort of an incomplete ending. I don't know that there's really any tension rising. I guess I have a tendency to kind of resolve issues and potential conflicts within a scene, which I guess isn't horrible as long as you have conflict in it and it gets resolved. But at the same time, maybe more frequently, I guess I could watch a few movies and determine this, that it shouldn't end where it begins in terms of, emotional investment, or I don't know what the word is. It should end at a different level, not only of the story moving ahead, but it should end either with the two people liking each other more, liking them less, obviously learning something new that's changing how they feel about each other or how they see each other or something. All right, I've spoken about that at length. Okay, so we established that Jake and Luke, two peas in a pod, when Abby says, "What a surprise." It was her decision, in case you were wondering. This is kind of a rehash of stuff we already know, which is always tricky. How do you explain, or how do you get information across to a character who doesn't know something, but everyone else knows, or in this case, Abby knows, and the audience knows, more importantly. So how do you get them in the know? And probably the most common way, or the easiest way, is to set it up, cut from the scene, and then when you come back to the scene, it's obvious by their conversation that the information has been gotten across. All right. You just have no idea what she does. This got to involve law enforcement. Tagging along meter while driving 1,000 miles. Maybe she's a mobster. Yeah, you guys have got options. You've never thought how weird it is. All right, let's see what I'm doing here, because I know I definitely need to work on this scene. So Luke and Jake's interest is sort of peaked around this whole idea of what's Holly really up to, who is she, what does she do for a living, and so they're kind of speculating here. And again, Abby has said none of my business in regards to knowing what Holly does, who she is really. And in this scenario, well, that's probably typical. I don't know how many teenagers or, a 20-ish young lady would inquire into someone. Certainly she wouldn't have asked Holly. She would have never had the occasion probably to see her without Lexi being there. And I don't know that when Lexi and Abby hang out or at home or something, it's like, hey, what does that Holly lady do? So it's probably reasonable to assume this age group being sort of caught up in who they are and not who anyone else is, that it probably wouldn't be super untypical for Abby not to know. All right, so now that I've justified that, and that's kind of what I'm establishing here, is that Holly or Abby doesn't know. I don't know why Abby said, "What's your problem?" It doesn't really. All right, so now I'm kind of getting this same idea across about Luke and Jake. What I mentioned yesterday, their philosophy, their political leanings, etc. So Abby has sort of made an allegation to them, and Luke comes back with saying, basically, you can't believe everything you see on CNN, Airport Network News. And Abby is like, here we go again. And so we know that this is probably a point of contention in their relationship. And you do sort of wonder, kids of this age, how much, they know about each other's political leanings, kind of philosophy, if that is a wedge that can quickly drive between them, if they don't even think about it for a while. I'm sure when I was that age a couple of years ago, I never, not that I was a big dater, but yes, that is a true confession. I don't know that you would talk politics at all, let alone, I don't know how long they've been dating, but I don't think it's unusual. But having said that, they obviously know each other well enough to know what they know or what they think they know. Abby talking about Luke and Jake that way, and then Luke coming back with the other way. And I think I need to cut this conversation to the bone. Let it go. Let it go. What if every time, man, that is so embarrassing. Every time you use the word let it go, you had to pay Disney. That would be crazy. When in doubt, you could just say whatever. So then, see this, I mean, in this sense, the tension, the temperature of the room, so to speak, did change quite a bit. So it ends with although Jake's motion or his shrug to Luke maybe diffuses it a little. So maybe, there we go. What a brilliant writer. Okay, so they both had their conversations. They're at the track, and all right. So this is going to change a little, because before, as you recall, we had the thing about the helicopter, which I've taken out, but I'm just sort of simplifying this a little bit. I'm seeing this is page 24. So this is really getting close to break into 2, and there is really no break into 2. I mean, the past version, the break into 2 was when Lexi and Luke got kidnapped or whatever happened to them at the cabins. But yet here we are on page 25. Whoops. And here we are at the end of the day. Cliffhanger 137 in the bag. 138 coming up tomorrow. See ya. Bye.